Today I want to show you how to create depth and texture using contrast. By strategically placing a couple of different lights and adjusting their intensity, you can create shadows and highlights to enhance your scene. We needed to shoot this scene inside of this library, and the first thing you notice when you walk inside this room is all the windows and the amount of daylight that's flooding into the room. Now you can see that the room also has some overhead lights, and we had no control over those lights. So it's creating a mixed color temperature environment that we have to kind of figure out how to use. The first decision that we needed to make was how to handle those windows because there's so much light coming in. And actually, it was a fairly simple decision because we didn't have the equipment to deal with the windows any other way than to let them clip, let them become pure white. And so we set our camera settings first to make sure that those windows were blown out. So we shot fully open, I believe at a T2.2. And then we slow down our shutter until the windows were completely blown out. And I believe we were at a 24 shutter, which is the lowest we can go. We were shooting 24 frames. And at that point, then we're all set with our camera settings. We don't need to touch our camera settings any longer. All that daylight coming in is creating all those highlights, pings on the furniture, on some of the bookshelves, some of the book covers. All of that is creating those little reflection. And I wanted to enhance that and use that in the overall look of what we were filming. So one way to do that is to create a lot of highlights and a lot of shadows. And so we needed some pretty harsh light. For our key light, we use an aperture 600 with a large softbox to make sure that light was pretty soft. And then we raised the intensity of that light until we felt like the level on our subjects was correct. And so we looked at our false color and raised the intensity until they were lit properly. We placed it on the window side so that the light would then look natural when it hit our actors. It would kind of blend in with the natural light that was coming through the window. The key light also acted as a backlight for our first actor. You can see all the spill from that light on his shoulder, on his neck, and it kind of helped us create separation between our actor and the background. So the key to creating highlights and shadows was for us to use a very harsh light. And so we used the aperture 300. We mounted with the Fresnel lens so that we could focus the beam of light and raise the intensity as high as we could. And you can see the light hitting the sweater of the actor and his neck, and it's pointing towards the table. You can also see it kind of as it acted as a little bit as a key light on our second actor. And all those reflective surfaces on the table, like the books, the table itself, the keyboard, the computers, all of that are going to create some really strong reflection and highlights, and also create some really strong shadows. Here's our white shot. Let me pause it here. You can see the reflection created by the natural light coming in and our key light. And you can see it in the background as well. Those books are kind of creating those little pings. And our windows all blown out, which is great. It actually is going to help us kind of amplify the message of and the contrast between those highlights and the shadows by having those very bright spots up there. It will make our shadows look even darker, if that makes sense. Like, because this is pure white, this will look actually a lot darker than it is. Same with this chair. It just helps creating that difference. Let me pause it here before the camera moves to the other actor. You can see how harsh that backlight is on him. So that's coming from that Fresnel lens above his sweater. And what I like is, it's matching those little pings that we have in the background. So it's blending it nicely with what's going on naturally in the back. So I like this shot because it's a really it's a lot easier to see exactly what that light is doing. So all this reflection here on the books, it will come in on the keyboards. You can see it on the computer. All that is coming from that fill light, that 300 that we put, along with those harsh shadows. And they're going to get stronger and stronger as the camera rotates around the table. And so again, we're just using the reflective nature of the environment by providing that harsh light. You can see how harsh that light is. It's creating those very, very dark shadows on the table. And it's really amplifying all the texture. Like you can see the texture of the table, the reflective nature of all those objects. And so it's just a great, easy way of creating and amplifying all those textures by adding that harsh light. And it goes to the computer. Let me go back a little bit. Right here, you see the difference right here between the shadow and the highlights. Let's stop on the close-up for a second, and we can see that that light is creating pings like on his glasses. You can see it on his hands and on his hair. Now, we got lucky with our actors. We didn't know who was going to be in this scene, and the fact that he has very dark hair kind of helped, again, amplify the level of brightness from that lamp. And same with his skin tone. Like, because he has a darker skin tone, that kind of helps us creating the contrast between darkness and light. Okay, let's stop right here. All this light that just came in is because we're shooting with an anamorphic lens, and all that light is being sucked into the lens and creating those flares that anamorphics are so well known for. I'll show you what we did to kind of amplify some of those, but that's what you're seeing here. And as we're moving the camera, that flare goes in and out. We used a regular flashlight and pointed it directly into the lens of the camera to kind of add some flares and some light bleed. And then as I was moving the camera, he would slowly move the flashlight away so that the frame wasn't getting flooded with all the lens flare. So we would get a little bit of lens flare, and then he would remove it. Thank you so much for watching this video until the end. And as a token of my appreciation, I'd like to offer you my free camera setting cheat sheet. Just follow the link below and download your free cheat sheet. Thanks again for watching, and happy filming.